Good afternoon. I'm sorry for the delay in this afternoon's briefing, which has been due to an extended sitting of Tynwald Court. Regrettably, I have to report one further death from coronavirus in the community has been confirmed on the island. Our condolences go out to all those involved, together with the family and friends. There have now been a total of 16 deaths in the community and 5 in a hospital. Since the last update, there has also been one further confirmed positive test for coronavirus in the Isle of Man. The total number of confirmed cases now stands at 309, with 252 cases presumed recovered. There have been 2,941 concluded tests, 45 people are awaiting results, and 30 people are awaiting tests. Since I last spoke to you, I am pleased to say that we have made significant progress with our support schemes, and thousands of people will now be benefiting from the payment structures that we have put in place. We continue to work to improve these schemes where necessary. We have added more sectors of the economy to the business support scheme and the salary support scheme. We have relaxed the rules for self-employed, and we have now relaxed the rules for wage support to include single employee businesses. These changes mean that we have widened the base of support that was available, we have cleared backlogs, and we have improved our processing times. Over £6.4 million of support has so far been paid out to small businesses and the self-employed through the business support scheme. 2,141 small businesses and individuals have benefited from this £3,000 payment, and by the end of this week, hundreds more will have been processed. We are supporting the wages now of thousands of employees across the island to a maximum of £1,120 per employee per month, keeping jobs open and businesses running. We expect to pay out over £7 million of wage support for March wages. We have already distributed £3.8 million of wage support for this period to 569 businesses with some 4,713 employees, and have a further 405 applications to process this week. The change in eligibility rules for single employee business will now see and mean additional applications being made for wage support, providing a further £5.3 million of wage support over the 3-month period for these businesses and these individuals. The wage support scheme will support our local economy through business payrolls for March, April and May. We are also supporting businesses by deferring the payment of statutory payments. We have deferred £11.8 million of quarterly VAT income. We have deferred £2.4 million of income tax revenue. And all of these actions are helping support businesses and jobs across the community. And for those of you who have fallen outside the business support net, you are turning to Social Security for assistance. Our Social Security payments are running efficiently. We have so far awarded the Manx Earnings Replacement Allowance of £200 per week to 1,667 individuals. We are expecting that the MIRA will pay out much needed support of £4 million over the 12 weeks of the scheme. And as the MIRA is payable 2 weeks in arrears, I can now inform you that the MIRA will provide a further 14 days of payments after a person's return to work, thus allowing for this support to continue whilst they await their first wage. As well as MIRA, Social Security Division has seen increases in other benefits too. 1,400 people are now claiming job seekers allowance. This is an increase of some 250% since mid-February this year, and we continue to receive between 20 to 30 claims per day. Whilst it has taken us some time to get through this huge influx in claims, I am pleased to note that claims are now being processed in approximately 5 working days. As the situation continues to develop, we are now turning our attention as to what will happen when our MIRA and wage support schemes finish. Some of you will of course by then have returned to work and be in a position to earn a wage and will no longer require this support. I recognise though that for many this will not be the case, and depending on how we are able to phase our return to work. Some of you will require ongoing support beyond these global against plans for the current year. I intend to bring an update to this year's budget to Tynwald in July, setting out our plans in more detail. It is vital that we have a thriving economy, not just for government revenues, not just for business, but for society as a whole. In that respect, we must of course recognise that amongst the gloom, there are many companies continuing to work incredibly hard. Some businesses have written to me how, with government support, they have managed to improve their business models. Others have told me they are managing without government support. And of course, some of our businesses have played an increasingly important role during this crisis. Thank you to all of you working so hard to keep your businesses and the economy going. We are now paying millions of pounds out in support of supporting hundreds of businesses, wages for thousands of employees, and of course supporting those who find themselves needing direct support from the social security system. We are continuing to work hard across the community to find a way through this, and of course we have now taken the first steps to getting the economy back on its feet. I do not underestimate how tough this is for many, but together we are making progress. Thank you very much, and I will now take questions, and the first question is from Josh Stokes at ITV. Josh.
Thank you, Minister. The Chief Minister announced today in Tynwald a phased exit strategy. In regards to the document later this week, how much detail can we expect to see from the Treasury on these phases? Will it include how long the government support schemes will be open for example? The Chief Minister used the word transparent to describe the document, so what sort of transparency will we see from the Treasury within that document?
Well, the overarching document is the strategic document. As I've outlined to you already in some detail, the extent of the schemes that we are currently providing and the cost of those schemes. It very much depends, though, that this document will be a working document. We don't necessarily have complete oversight as to the timings of any phased return to work. It very much depends on things going extremely well from the health side. Obviously, we can have some confidence at the moment how our health plans and implementation is going, but clearly we don't have a lot of oversight as to the extent of any impact that coronavirus has had on the business community when they actually get back to work. So there's quite a lot for us to do with. So the truth of the matter is we won't really have the financial oversight, the complete financial oversight, until probably July when we deliver the budget. And as I said, as these sectors get back to work, less people, I hope, will be claiming on the social security, and of course our wage support demands will decrease, but then we'll be able to pick up the pieces after that and understand what we actually have to do next to invest public money most effectively, both to support people who still need it and where we need to invest to help the economy in terms of developing the business opportunities that might exist both for locally domestic businesses and those businesses that are facing out into the external market.
Okay, thank you. My second question, if I may, is a question about those who usually commute to work to the UK from the island. Is there at this point a separate plan being worked on for those workers within this strategy, and whether that be the border opening exclusively for those people who commute to the UK a little earlier, or specific support for those workers in particular?
Yeah, so clearly this is continuing to be an issue for us around the border controls and how they are operating most effectively. I mean, the government correctly made the decisions to both insist on a pretty hard lockdown, if that's the right word, but also to insist on very strict border controls. As we move forward, we clearly need to adjust those in line with changing circumstances. The Chief Minister has announced today in Tynwald that allowances will now be made for workers on the Isle of Man with international jobs, where those jobs are playing a key role in society, and they will be bringing forward further clarification in that over the next day or so. And indeed, the Chief Minister, I understand, will be with you tomorrow, and he can explain fully how that system now is going to operate for key workers on the island. But the short answer to your question is yes, we are now starting to make allowances for workers with international or national and international jobs that are off island.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Josh. Chris Cave from Energy FM.
Good afternoon, Minister. You outlined certain changes just before, but there still appears to be some confusion as to which particular financial support packages people qualify for, with many either having not heard back yet and are left in limbo, or being told they're not eligible for certain schemes, but with no reason for being given. Is the relevant information being correctly circulated to assist companies? Because there's criticism from some quarters that certain smaller businesses are being hung out to dry.
Well, I don't know that that's fair at all. I mean, as I've already explained, we are now millions of pounds is reaching out to people across this community, both for small businesses and for employees. As I said, we have taken steps now to improve the schemes. There is a lot out there for businesses. It's not just the direct support that's available. There's also indirect support. We've tried to make that as clear as possible on the websites and through the information that's being provided directly, particularly through the Department for Enterprise. And of course, we do continue to pick up on individual cases and to try and find solutions where, for instance, we find that they're not quite fitting into the parameters that we've set out. But broadly speaking, we have now got over £6 million distributed through the business support scheme. We're expecting £7 million just for March wages alone, now at least, to go out, and indeed is going out. Many of the companies who've put in for the wage support are today and yesterday and the day before receiving their money. Broadly speaking now, the money is getting to the people that it needs to get to enable the economy to keep going and for us to fulfill the obligations and promises that we set out a month or so ago now to provide as much support as we can to keep these jobs open.
There are still businesses falling through cracks of the system, though, aren't there? I read of one business who's only used up life savings to survive for a month and has now had to fold because of a lack of government support.
Well, I can't necessarily speak for every single business or every individual case. Clearly, one would need to examine what exactly has happened in that particular circumstance. As I said, I'm very confident that broadly speaking, we've got the right range of support in place, that we've got the right mechanisms in place, and millions of pounds now is getting out to and reaching thousands of employees across the island via their businesses. They've outlined at least £13 million worth of direct support that is either being processed or has been paid out this week. And in addition to that, I've also outlined at least another £13 million of statutory payments which have been delayed to allow these businesses the breathing space they need to try and cope with the problems they're facing as a result of this pandemic. And the other thing, Chris, is as I've also outlined, as the situation progresses, we now need to start turning our attention to what we need to deliver in the longer term for those areas of the economy where they've got longer term problems. For example, highlighting tourism, hospitality, leisure, and where, for example, they're not necessarily getting back to work as quickly as they would like under the current plans.
Okay, my second question, I think this may have been covered earlier, but the salary support scheme, as I understand it, covers March, April and May. Could you provide an update on whether this is likely to be extended beyond then?
Yeah, so I have answered that. So, as I said, Chris, we're looking at all these schemes and how applicable they are, how well they're working, and of course whether they need to be extended. As I said, there will be certain sectors where we feel that they might need and almost certainly will need additional support. So we do need to decide and determine how that's going to operate going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex Spell, BBC.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Before we come to the main two questions I have for you, are you able to confirm that today's community death stemmed from the Abbotswood cluster?
Regrettably, yes, it did.
Thank you. Moving on, I would like to ask you about this 250 million pounds, I should say, of vindicated borrowing. Is uncharted territory, really, for the Isle of Man to borrow that amount of money. Will work start immediately to eradicate the national debt once the economy is in a more stable position? Or will an economy built on this kind of debt become the new normal for the Isle of Man?
There's so many permutations to that, Chris, and so many questions to which we just don't have the answers at the moment, that it's almost impossible for me to try and give you a sense of direction at the moment, other than the fact that we are acting prudently to ensure that we have sensible financial resources to deal with this pandemic by seeking or going to seek Tynwald's permission to have £250 million worth of borrowing available to us in the short to medium term. And how we move forward from that very much depends on the picture that we get when we get to July, which I think would be a sensible time frame to be able to digest how many people have been managed successfully to get back to work, how successful those sectors that are back to work are performing, where the gaps are in terms of our economic performance, also what we need to focus on now as an island going forward from an economic strategy, both in the short to medium term and the longer term. So it's entirely feasible that £250 million, which is there as a prudent measure, becomes more substantial and or is being prepared to be used in a more focused and appropriate way. Certainly, if we are going to borrow on the island, and there are lots of indications to suggest that we may need to do so now as a result of this pandemic to support jobs, support the economy, and find a way forward, and also to build on opportunities that we see going forward. That we do so with purpose rather than just borrowing to support cash flow. So there's a long way to go with this over the next few weeks and few months, and I'll be in a much clearer position to bring forward what the financial plans are for the island, probably, as I said, in July, once we've had an opportunity to both understand the current position, how the phasing of the return to work has gone, and what we're left with in terms of the aftershocks.
Thank you. You say we'll have a clearer picture in regards to that borrowing by July. Your answer to this question may be similar. It's an issue which hasn't been visited since the end of the last administration, I believe. I might be wrong on that. But is this government now considering the issue of government bonds to support its current level of spending?
Well, again, I don't want to make statements of fact before we are entirely ready, but suffice to say that we will be considering our options when it comes to assessing what needs what we will need to support the economy in the best way going forward, and in the most sustainable way, I would suggest, for the future. Clearly, we don't want to be borrowing to the levels that would cause us problems in the future, but there is strong arguments at the moment, as it currently stands, that some form of borrowing will be needed, and probably now is a good time to do that rather than try and cash in on our substantial reserves, which are still there, I might add. But the only reason why we don't want to start effectively cashing those reserves in is because a lot of the markets, international markets, the UK market, are significantly undervalued at the moment, and to do so would not be in the best interests of realising the true value of those assets that we currently hold under our reserves.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. And I'll just move to Sam Turton, please. Sam.
Good evening, Mr. Cannon. I just wonder if we could start with the UK. These small businesses have been told the government will now offer 100% guarantee for loans. Is that something that is being looked at here?
Well, we already have a loan guarantee scheme, Sam. We have £60 million of loans that we are supporting through the banks on the Isle of Man. The government is underwriting 80% of that of those loans, so that money is already there. And I haven't got the latest up-to-date figures for you, but I do understand that it is now starting to be accessed by various businesses, and probably within the next few weeks I'll be able to give you a better indication of how much support has gone out through those through that up to £60 million of loan, of which we're underwriting 80%.
So that was more my point. In the UK, yes, the Chancellor agreed that small businesses will be able to have 100% guarantee. I meant more, was that something that has been looked at for smaller companies on the island?
That we're not at that stage at the moment. That's not necessarily to say that we wouldn't move to that point, but I think we're in a slightly different position from the UK. I think we'll need to see how we get on with the potential phased return to work over the next few weeks. And then, as I said, we will have to make some further decisions about how we look to support the economy, how we look to support businesses going forward from that particular point.
And just secondly then, with a revised budget coming forward in July, I know it's very early to say, but is it looking, could we potentially be looking at increases in national insurance and tax, or are we more likely to see a reduction in spending on capital projects?
Yeah, again, I mean, we're going to look at a whole raft of options. Part of the issue that we're dealing with is just, as I've said probably multiple times now, Sam, in these various press conferences, is just the lack of understanding of the depth of this crisis and the impact that we are expecting both on government revenues and on government expenditure. I think that we will be looking at a wide range of options. We clearly need to understand more broadly what our overall strategy is going forward, and we need to try and focus to ensure that we are undertaking the best actions to sustain the island going forward. It doesn't necessarily compute to the most efficient position for government to have possibly a recession on its hands and to cut government spending at the same time. That may actually just prove to make the situation worse. But there's a lot of work we need to do beforehand. That work is now underway. It will take some weeks. And I think it is realistic of me to say to you and the public, it'll probably be July before we're in a realistic position at the moment to come forward and give proper clarity and oversight as to what type of actions may be necessary. But government will play a really key role in sustaining us going forward. There's a lot of actions that we can potentially take, some of which you've alluded to, positive actions I might suggest, that will help keep people in work and keep driving the economy forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. So we move on to Amanda at Jeff the Mongoose. Hi, Amanda.
Thank you, Minister. We've previously asked about our private financial sector and whether or not it could assist the government in these difficult times. Has there been any movement in using their expertise in modelling, analysis or guidance to aid the government in this response?
Well, I can tell you that the private sector has from time to time been involved in some of the actions that government has undertaken quick actions to support the health service. We have undertaken our own professional modelling. I think it was Dr. Wright who was here giving the press conference a few days ago, in which he clearly explained the modelling. So as far as the modelling goes, I'm not aware that the private sector per se has been involved directly in that process, and in fact, I'm very confident that those involved with the health service and GTS who've put together that modelling have done so on a fully knowledgeable basis.
Sorry, I was referring more to the economic forecasting there rather than the health service.
Sorry. Well, we have our own economics department. I mean, clearly we're always interacting with businesses, primarily through the Department for Enterprise, but of course as the Treasury Department as well. We speak with both the Chamber and business representatives to understand what is happening in their particular sectors. The Chamber is running a survey at the moment. It's a fairly broad survey. It's probably going to be a few weeks before we get the latest statistics through from a full economic perspective to, as I said, really understand what the impact is. But yes, absolutely, we'll be working very, very closely with business as we go forward, both to get a proper understanding of where the issues and problems lie, understand what the opportunities may be for those businesses, where perhaps they can change their business models, and we'll look to support a range of initiatives to both support them and, of course, to react to the issues that they're highlighting.
Thank you very much, Minister. And secondly, wealthy entrepreneurs are facing backlash for requesting help from the government in the UK. Is the Treasury dealing with any similar scenarios in the island, such as a high net worth business owners with personal wealth seeking government support alongside smaller, less wealthy businesses? And is this a problem for the government?
Well, it's not a problem that I'm aware of. We have designed the schemes in such a way so that we are providing support to the sectors that we believe have been most effective. As you know, we've extended those schemes over the last 4 weeks and even up to today, when I'm announcing that we'll be including single employee businesses. I don't have any issues with the individuals who've been claiming those schemes. It's pretty much within our projections of what we expected. And indeed, I'm very conscious that there are probably multiple examples across the community where businesses owned by wealthy individuals are continuing to support their employees through this period. So I don't think there's an issue, certainly that I'm aware of at the moment, Amanda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tim Glover, Manx Radio.
Faster my Minister. We've recorded an interview today, and I know you're not going to comment on an individual case, but he's self-employed, a man and van provider who does removals, tip runs, etc. He's applied for MIRA and the 3,000 grant, left umpteen voicemails, but yet to receive a reply or any help. And after 36 days of eating into his own savings, he's run out of money. Do you accept that many businesses have not had the timely help that they needed and have folded as a result?
No, I don't accept that, Tim. I accept there have been a few delays to this process. I did want to make it absolutely clear at the beginning that we would do our very best for the whole community, but we couldn't guarantee to save every job and every business. Clearly, from what you say, and I don't know the circumstances. I don't know what evidence there is or what the position is with this particular business. But clearly, obviously, it's disappointing if they haven't been responded to. As I said to you, over 2,144 plus businesses now have received the business support scheme. There are hundreds being paid out this week. And clearly, once again, if there is an individual case, of which I know the department and officers have picked up on many, then we're very happy to look at it. But as it stands, I would suggest that actually, broadly speaking, we're now getting millions of pounds out to the community, millions of pounds out to businesses to support their employees with the wage support scheme, and millions of pounds, £6 million plus, gone to these mostly small businesses and the self-employed.
And can we just clarify the position of people who are over 65 that have retired but they're receiving a state pension, but they're carrying on working, so they're paying taxes and contributing like they have throughout their working lifetime. They haven't been able to get any aid at all. Is the scheme being extended to over 65s?
Well, that depends which scheme you're talking about, Tim. As far as I'm aware, that anybody who is employed by a business can obtain the salary support, so there are no restrictions there. I am aware that with the Social Security, the MIRA benefit, there are restrictions around those who are over retirement age, but that does not mean to say that those over retirement age could not access Social Security if their income falls below certain levels. So it does depend on the circumstances, but it is an issue in terms of more broadly around the business support scheme, if that's the one that you're particularly concerned with, where we are looking into it. The reason why initially we didn't include the pensioners was because of the fact that they were receiving state pension of various degrees, admittedly, and also because, again, we are extending out support possibly into a far wider range of scenarios than we ever potentially envisaged. But we are looking at that particular issue, Tim, and we will update accordingly. But there is support out there. If a pensioner is employed and they are working, there is no reason why that company cannot be claiming wage support for that individual. And 3FM, Rob Pritchard.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Yeah.
With the Chief Minister outlining the six-phase plan today, one thing he was clear about in the last time he appeared before the media was that he couldn't give specific dates on when these phases would be coming in, given the situation. With that in mind, that there are no specific dates and deadlines to work towards, I'm just interested to know how then you're able to plan ahead.
Well, we do. I mean, as the Chief Minister said, the government will be publishing its strategy. Yes, dates and deadlines are difficult sometimes in these circumstances because none of us really know, what we're dealing with. This is all new to us. There is no playbook that says coronavirus on it. But broadly speaking, we've achieved a lot of the objectives that we set out to do when we decided we were going to come in really hard to suppress this virus on the island. Obviously, we've had a case today. That's early days yet. I don't know a huge amount about that case. And clearly, we don't want to move too quickly to expose the island to any undue or significant risk. So I think what we've said is that actually there is a view that once we get a phase through the door, once we start getting people back to work, that we should wait at least 8 to 10 days before we start making decisions about the next phase. So I think we've mapped out the phases. The timing of those phases and how they happen is a little bit up in the air. All being good with where we are today, I would expect us at some point next week to start discussing what the next phase of return would look like and how that would compare to the strategy document. And I think it's important to say that in all this, when the Chief Minister and government publishes the strategy document, it is a working document and it's not set necessarily in stone. And of course, as the Council of Ministers, as a government, as a community, we're having to react at the moment almost on a daily basis to the situation, which at times is unknown, as it is unknown on the financial side. It's also to a degree unknown on the health side. What I can say is we are fully prepared now to tackle an outbreak, and therefore we must weigh up our preparedness in that respect versus the risks that we are looking at as we seek to move forward to try and bring some normality to people's lives and also to get the economy moving as well.
Thank you. My second question, you've mentioned that you're aiming to bring another budget in July. How has it been calculated that July is the correct time to bring this forward?
I think that is as good an estimate of the time that it's going to take for us to get full clarity on the extent of the support that's being paid out. We set that out for initial 3-month, 12-week period. So, for example, the wage support will happen over March, April, May. To extent MIRA will continue through into June. Clearly then, at or about that type of timing, we'll have a much better understanding of how many people are back in work, how successful they are being employed, what the economy more broadly looks like, and what the overall impact on government finances has been. So whether it's a full budget or whether it's an interim budget statement, an update, is yet to be decided because of the lack of clarity that we've got. But it seems a sensible forecast for me to be able to confirm to the public and to Tynwald that will be the timing that I would expect to bring forward something more positive and something more substantial.
Thank you very much.
Simon Richardson.
Good evening, Mr. Cannon.
Good evening.
2 questions. Firstly, in the recent Chamber of Commerce study into the impacts of COVID-19 on local businesses, I think they canvassed around 372 businesses from a pretty broad cross-section. Now, in terms of business continuity, they concluded that with the right government support, 74% of those that responded expected their businesses to remain viable. That, of course, means that 26 didn't. Now, is that sort of figure in line with your government estimates at the moment?
I don't think we set out with an estimate as to how many businesses would not get through this. What we have set out to do is to provide as much support as we possibly can, accepting that in some cases it may not be enough, depending on the state and structure of that business and potentially its customer base. Nobody wants to see businesses fail, Simon, in these circumstances. We absolutely recognise that we must do everything we reasonably can, but also we have to take a view on the overall objectivity, if you like, or the overall due diligence that we are applying to the expenditure of public funds. And in some cases, maybe the public funds that are required to save a business are regrettably not being wisely spent in those circumstances. So it is a question of balance for us. Absolutely, we are doing what we believe to be the best we can. We have a wide range of both direct and indirect support available, and we will continue to take a view on that. What I would say is if there is more broadly, rather than just individual businesses, sector problems, then clearly we may need to take much more focused action in those instances to try and support and stabilise that particular sector of the economy.
Thank you. And my second question, £250 million in borrowing. It's obviously new to the Isle of Man, but I mean, governments around the world, almost all of them borrow money to support their finances. Do you see this becoming part of the modelling of Manx government financial provision into the future?
Probably is the short answer to that. I think the pandemic has speeded up quite a lot of the thought process around public funding and how public funding can be applied in the most appropriate way. As much as the health minister is cautious about the speed of recovery from coronavirus, I'm also quite cautious about the level of borrowing that one might need. And I think the island needs to approach that in a very sensible and measured way. And as I say, that any borrowing that we do has to have, I think, for the most part, some substance to it, i.e. a clear idea of what it's going to achieve for the island going forward. And there's always the risk, of course, that borrowing is just seen as the easy way out of problem situations. And of course, once you start borrowing, you then end up potentially starting to look to more borrowing. And one has to be mindful that whilst we have fiscal control, we don't necessarily have a lot of control over monetary policy itself. So carefully, cautiously, with substance at the moment. The pandemic has clearly brought on the need now to look carefully at the support mechanisms that we need to put in place to ensure that the island can successfully move forward out of this current situation.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And finally, Paul Moulton from MTTV. Hi, Paul.
Hello there, Alf. Just following on from that last one, I mean, Moody's and S&P credit rating, we've never had borrowing, and we've always had great credit rating. It potentially could be changed, and that could have all sorts of impact. Your thoughts on that?
So Moody's haven't taken any steps other than to continue to recognise the strength in the island's public finances. Yes, that might have an impact. That would have to be part of the thought process, an impact study that would go alongside any borrowing. But again, I would suggest that done in the right way, with substance and with a proper plan attached to it, I don't see necessarily that Moody's would not seek to continue to endorse the strength of the island's finances. And bear in mind in all this, of course, is that we still have substantial reserves. Yes, we've lost value on those reserves naturally, but we still have good solid reserves. They will recover. The world will come out of this. It may take a year or so to do so. It may take a couple of years for stock market levels to return, but we've still got that in the background. So there's plenty for us to think about, Paul, and I wouldn't necessarily view this negatively. I think there's lots of potential positives to the right level of borrowing being applied at the moment, and certainly we could realise a lot of positive opportunities to take the island forward, perhaps at a quicker rate than what we were originally planning before this pandemic broke.
Okay. And in the spirit of the UK government doing the same thing, here's one from one of our audience. When the government has formed its plans for the island's exit strategy, will it be submitted to Tynwald for their approval and debate?
I think the Chief Minister committed today that to Tynwald that he would be willing to allow a debate on the plan that we have to move the island forward. I'm a little bit cautious about using this word exit strategy as if it sort of signals a complete end to coronavirus. I think we as a community have to recognise that even if we did, get to a position where coronavirus was to all intents and purposes for a period of time eradicated on the island, it seems that this virus is still going to be around shores close to us for some considerable time to come. And, I guess as we move forward, there's a lot still to think about. And of course, as we push forward beyond, I would suggest, the summer, what happens internationally is going to be of interest to us. Whether we can maintain such strict controls over our borders for that sort of period of time, September, October, November, going forward. So there's a lot for us to think about. But I think what the strategy will do will help, take us forward. I hope take us forward in a positive manner and a confident manner about our ability to deal with this. And clearly in the longer term, there's a lot for both us and the world more broadly to think about. But yes, I expect there will be some form of Tynwald debate on this in the very near future. So is that it? Tim, you've got one more?
Yeah, just a clarification. There are some businesses that obviously apply for the grant, but they might have multiple venues. Are they only covered for just one of their parts of the business?
So at the moment, yes, it is one entity, even if it has multiple parts to that entity. And again, as we move forward, we might have to revisit that, as I am aware that some business owners clearly have more than just one entity that they are looking after, and I think we'll need to take account of that. I think broadly, Tim, we put all these packages together, both the direct and indirect support, to try and help businesses in a variety of ways find their way through this. And clearly the big factors now are those sectors that we can't get back to work. I guess the timescale involved with those sectors getting back to work, and what sort of economic conditions they're left with. So there's still a lot of work, a huge amount of work for us to do. It's been relentless for 5 or 6 weeks, and it's going to continue to be hard work, taking a lot of effort, a lot of consultation, a lot of discussion, to get this to get ourselves into the right place. So there's a huge amount for us still to do. So thank you very much. So I have, just before we go, got some shout outs. I know these are proving popular. So we've had a Howard's Heroes nomination for the 400 plus volunteers working with helpout.im, each of whom has pledged to support those in need in our community. This includes running errands such as shopping and dog walking for vulnerable people on our island, helping to shield them from coronavirus. Thank you to everyone volunteering their time to help others across the island. Another nomination is for those working in pharmacies around the island. This nomination, I'm delighted to say, is specifically for the team in my own constituency, the village pharmacy in Kirkmichael. The individual making the nomination, who describes themselves as being in a vulnerable group, has said, like so many of us, we depend on our medication, and at times like this, the staff at the pharmacies are putting themselves in harm's way to provide us with much needed meds. The team at Kirkmichael have been extremely helpful to my wife and I at this difficult time, for which we are very grateful. I'd like to also mention the Steam Packet crew, who are also working in extreme conditions, carrying out their duties. And finally for today, we have received a nomination for Tracy Nicol-Clark. Tracy has been doing a fantastic job raising money and buying care packages for our health and care professionals. The bags include items for personal care such as hand creams and soaps, which Tracy is delivering herself. So thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you to everybody. And please have a good evening. Thank you.